Hello out there and welcome. My name is Sharon Froshin. I am the Chief Operating Officer of the Discover Your Path U platform, where we believe that every life can teach and everyone can grow. To that end, I'm also the host of this show, The Connection Sessions, where we bring together practitioners, entrepreneurs, artists, marketers, authors, spiritualists, students, and mentors in an effort to connect to community, learn from each other, and grow. Today, I have with me somebody I just met, but honestly already really like, Emily Formea, who is just an absolutely incredible young lady who likes to focus on mindset and how we can actually change our relationship with ourselves and thus our world by focusing on a mindset that's more positive and constructive for a relationship with ourselves and therefore others. And this is a subject that I just love talking about. So I'm so grateful that you could be with me here today, Emily. And I'm hoping that you might be willing to kind of just share with our audience a little bit about what brought you to life coaching and to the wellness and mindset niche.
So thank you so much, Sharon. It's so nice to meet you.
Ditto.
Yeah, I I kind I had a little bit of, I guess what brought me to the whole mindset in particular was I always struggled with self-confidence. I always
Mm.
struggled with seeking outer validation and sort of not living in my mold, which is something I preach about a lot. I was trying to do this or trying to look this way or do all these things to try to make people like me. And at the end of the day, it was really just I didn't like myself or who I had become, and I hadn't worked on the relationship inward. So I was trying to do all this outward, like success and accomplishments and all these things. And so when I started to do my own mindset work and my own self growth journey, I found, especially through my blog and just like my Instagram, that so many other young women and men as well were going through the exact same thing I had gone through, and no one was talking about it. Like no one
Wow.
was giving advice or sharing what I had needed. And so that's what sort of made me start my own coaching. Was I wanted to coach the person that I had been,
Wow.
um, and the resources that I would have needed back then.
That's really powerful. I think that's one of the most powerful life coaches there are, is the life coach who is coaching from the seat of experience rather than the seat of theory.
Mhm.
So it's really powerful to
Absolutely.
hear you embracing your own experience and using that to heal the lives of others.
Yeah, and it just made it so much more real. And
Yeah.
um, I had gone through, like, I personally had gone through therapy and I'd gone
Mhm.
through all of these things, and they definitely benefited me. But there's a there's a difference when you hear or speak to someone who has been through exactly what you're going through. And
Yes.
that's what I learned. It wasn't really about necessarily certifications or accomplishments or whatever. It was someone who had been in those shoes and sometimes still, wore those shoes, could really help you through all of your kind of negative mindset, self-confidence issues, things like that.
That's so true. I remember when Alcoholics Anonymous came on the scene in the 1930s, there were doctors like Carl Jung, who was a transformational psychologist, but was not, I mean, psychiatrist, I apologize, but was not able to really make or
Mm-hmm.
affect any change in the lives of alcoholics. And then all of a sudden, these two drunks get together and start talking, and out of that conversation unfolds an organization that has helped millions upon millions of alcoholics all the way around the world. And it had nothing to do with education, certification.
Mm-hmm.
All it had to do with was one drunk talking to another drunk about the experience of being a drunk. That's so
That's amazing. I've
powerful.
never heard of that, but yeah, it's the exact same thing. I think just hearing that you're not alone and not
Yeah.
necessarily being told by someone who doesn't have it, not their fault whatsoever, but if they don't have it, sometimes there's just those moments that it's so hard to really understand and really know what to say, because to them it's so illogical. But to the two drunks, right, it was totally
Yeah.
logical. They'd like
Made
been through
perfect
it, they
sense.
were dealing with it, they totally got it. And that's exactly it.
Yeah, I love the way that we as a society have this tendency to completely set ourselves up for failure in that, and when I say I love that, I'm being sarcastic, in that we compare our insides, all the dark, dirty crannies and corners of our own internal world that we know about to the manufactured outsides of another person.
Mm-hmm.
So that person's putting their best foot forward, they're putting on the right clothes, they're getting their makeup perfect, they're like totally on point, and we're like, oh, I don't measure up to them. Well, the mindset of comparing all of your flaws to somebody else's best foot forward is a recipe for disaster. So how would you help somebody who comes to you with that mindset of, well, I can compare myself to another person and come out, positive? How would you help somebody
Yeah.
understand that?
Yeah, I think comparison mindset is really interesting because it really all stems from an idea of scarcity. It stems from an idea of like, oh, this person is what society considers beautiful, so then I'm less of it.
Yeah.
And I guess it's the belief of we have to change to be value, or our purpose in life is being busy, is being beautiful, being rich, being all these things, instead of just really understanding that your purpose is just being you. That's all the universe needs you to do, is to just
Yes.
be you. What it doesn't need you to do is try to fill these other molds or these other
Yeah.
places that people hold. So I think, like comparison, for example, we all say, we want to be wealthy and we want to be rich and we want to be successful, but I truly believe that if it's not meant to be for you, you wouldn't want that, right? You see it and
Yeah.
you think you do, and you think that that's the only way to be happy and that's the only way to live and to be successful and whatnot. And so we try to put ourselves in like society's mold, but there's only one mold and it's really not for any of us. And when you do that, you lose sight of just who you really are and what you really want, and that's value. So I think it's just a lot
Yes.
of disregarding the value that you have, and also
Yeah.
your purpose is really just being the person you are. The universe doesn't need multiple copies. It needs more individual works of, art and of just individuality, I think, is so
Absolutely.
interesting. And so in comparison, it's realizing that.
I totally agree. And I think that one of our downfalls when we went from being hunter-gatherer societies to more stabilized and, still societies is that groupthink came into it. Like when we were hunter-gatherer societies, every member of that society had to at least understand the job of every other member. And then we kind of settled down and became sedentary. And now everybody has a different job, and we hope it all works together, and we surrender our ability to authentically think and to authentically experience the
Mm-hmm.
world around us to the opinion of the masses. And I can only imagine that as a mindset coach, that must be so heartbreaking for you to see somebody who's just absolutely magical, who has broken themselves down to unworthy based upon the opinion of other people.
Absolutely. I think that's so interesting. So I recently actually spoke about this to a group of, I spoke at a sorority house here in Boston,
Awesome.
about this whole idea. Yeah. And and it was literally the topic. And one of my favorite quotes is, if Tetris taught me one thing, it's that fitting in just means disappearing.
Oh, wow.
And it's something that, isn't that so interesting?
That is
It's one of my, like, I
powerful.
came across it totally randomly, but it's so true. Like, the more that you really try to just have everyone like you, have everyone, like, do the job that your parents want you to do, and have the boyfriend, girlfriend that everybody is, supposed to have, whatnot, the more that you get out of tune with just who you really are, and that whole pack mentality of fitting in and being what is acceptable and what's not acceptable, it's all just what we decide. And so then we hold ourselves in that small mold of like, this is how much light we should show, and this is the way that we should
Exactly.
look, and we're very like safe with ourselves, because we're just taught to compare. And if you show yourself, then you're vulnerable to people judging you for who you are, and all you want to do is be liked by the pack and by the society. Yeah.
Yeah, that is, and so part of what all of this is so hard for me is, so like one of the basic four parts of physics is strong force, right? It's what holds cells
Mm-hmm.
together. We completely made that principle up because we didn't understand how it happened. We just literally fabricated it. Our scientists fabricated it, yet it's one of the four underpinnings for how we understand the world. Now, that may not immediately sound really important, but when you stop and consider that we look at science as like the thing that gives our world meaning and the thing that is the
Yeah.
solidity of our existence, we humans do this in so many different ways. And then we form opinions on stuff that we literally fabricated, and our whole world
Mm,
spins off into another reality based upon just being willing to, oh, okay, that's true. And I can imagine that being
yep.
somebody, one of the things I love about you is that you focus on wellness and mindset, because to me, those go hand in hand. And one of the things that I look at is
Mhm.
our nutrition in this country and how abysmal our nutrition is and how that naturally affects our mindset. We're more depressed. You can tell by the number of psychiatric medications that we're taking on the whole, that things are not going well.
Absolutely.
And they're so integral. So how has combining those two and really helping somebody to understand what thriving instead of existence is, how does that help a client for you?
Yeah, so I love that question because when I started being a wellness coach, I my whole offer line was I'm not going to tell you how to lose weight. I'm not going to tell you what to eat. I'm not going to tell you what exercise you should or should not be doing until we figure out your relationship with yourself.
Oh,
Because no
wow.
matter what you're trying to achieve in the realm of wellness, all of it's about intention. So if you want to lose weight or gain weight, or and I use that as an example because I think that's just a huge focal point of like wellness and health nowadays, or if you want to
Yeah.
eat better, why do you want to do that? Because if you're doing it once again for outer validation, you want to look this certain way, you want to prove to your friends this, none of that sticks. And so the question that you have to really understand behind it is like, why? And also understanding that these changes, and this is something super interesting that I learned in my own journey, was nothing will really change if you don't change your mindset.
Oh,
I have a
yes.
like past in high school I have a past in high school with an eating disorder, and I'm super open about it. And I kept losing weight because I thought losing weight would make me happy, and I kept losing weight, and then I would hit that goal, and I hated myself more, so I would kept losing weight. And this whole idea of if we change our outer appearance in any way, shape, or form, that it'll bring us inner joy, you're
Yes.
still the exact same person. And so I think that's really what I try to focus my coaching on is why do you want to make these changes in your life? And let's decide if they are coming from like a good or bad place, and also your opinion of yourself or an assumption of something that you have to do, have to be, etc. And then we can really
Yeah.
accomplish those wellness goals because your mind loves you here and will love you there. And that's the whole idea of, growth and change and wellness.
Oh my God, that's like transformational, dude. It really is. And
Thank you.
especially in the microwave generation where we just want to be like, okay, I want to change and don't
Yes,
understand any
that
of the
was
inner
me.
circuitry. Wow,
Yep.
that
Takes a long time.
you must have some amazing success stories using that.
I've loved to see, I think my favorite success, like one of my girls, we started working together, one-on-one coaching, and she wanted to get healthier. That was, she wanted to eat better and feel better about herself and feel better in her body. And over the course of, I do an 8-week program, usually depending on like the client and kind of what they're looking for. And over the 8 weeks, it was the most incredible thing because she didn't lose a single pound. She didn't, like look any different at all. But the way that she felt about her body, she just naturally wanted to take care of it. And she began to really love her body and fall in love with herself and fall in love with the process of loving herself.
Oh my
And I
God.
think that was my favorite thing is she joined my program, wanting the quick results, but also like the numerical results that we all want on paper. I want to like lose 3 dress sizes, whatever it was. And we
Yeah.
didn't accomplish any of that. We actually just figured out, why do you want to do this? And realize that, 3 dress sizes smaller, whatever, you're still the same person. And what if we just try to love ourselves here? How different can this whole journey be?
That is so powerful, especially because we age. And as we get
Yeah.
older and as hormonal, I'm at 45 now and I still mentally am quite immature and can think I'm in my 20s. And I try to push my body like I'm a 20-year-old and like, my body should look a certain way. Your body's not going to look that way for
It's
forever.
not
And when
right.
we're young and we embrace this idea that my worth is the way I look, you are in for some pain as you age,
Mhm.
like severe
And I
pain.
think it's absolutely, and I think that that's all of us. I'm like a firm believer in a huge issue for like all of the, like you said, like the depression, anxiety, like all of these things is just because we're so focused on what we look like. And I think another one of my favorite quotes ever is, if we realized how little people actually thought of us and
Right.
how seldom they do, we would care so much less. But for whatever reason, we are brought up to think that, everyone's
Yeah.
staring at us, everyone's judging us, everyone is critiquing us. The sad fact of reality is everyone's doing that. So no one has time to critique you,
Right.
and no one has time to critique me, because we're all just doing it to ourselves. And I think that that is,
Yeah.
when you realize that, it's one of the most freeing things
Oh my
ever,
God,
because you're like,
yes.
you don't care. You don't care because no one actually cares at all.
They don't really. That was such a
They
freeing
don't.
thing for me at 29 to have my sponsor sit down across from me and go, "Do you realize what it takes for something to be personal? That means that that person needs to have taken the time to get to know you, to understand you intimately, what makes you tick, what makes you work, to after that, then plan something that they know based upon what they've just learned is going to totally annoy you, and then painstakingly just roll out that plan." I mean, how arrogant do you have to be to think that anybody has that kind of time to do that to you? And that was one of those
Yes,
moments where it was like, wait a minute. It's
so
true.
there's I heard or I don't even know if it was a quote or a speaker, and this woman was talking about how she, the first time she ever did a presentation, like a speech, she was like, everyone's gonna be staring at me, everyone's gonna be like judging me, and I'm so nervous and all these things. And her mom said, "Oh, sweetheart, don't flatter yourself. No one's gonna take the time to," and I just love that, because we think so much about ourselves
Yes.
that, one, no one else has the time then to think about us. We're all doing the same thing. But on the opposite end of it, how much energy could we spend thinking of other people? Like being
Exactly.
so consumed and so concerned about me, 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 me. My mentor for my business always told me is, it's never about you, Emily. It never was. That was never the point of starting your business. So when you start to
Yeah.
get really, and this is a mindset trick, when you start to get really like nervous or insecure, like you don't want to ask clients to be your client, you don't want to do outreach, you don't want to do all these things, he's like, it's not about you. That was never the point of all of this. And it always just puts me back into like, you're right, like I'm doing this for my
Yeah.
clients. And in life, even, it's not, the whole point isn't about you. And when you just care so much, and that's what you have to work on, is loving
Yeah.
yourself, being happy with where you are, and just moving on, and like using that energy for so many other things.
Oh, totally. And another thing that just absolutely amuses the shit out of me, pardon my French, is that so we think about ourselves all the time, but we're never in our own business. We're always in somebody else's business, planning the
Oh,
way that they
yeah.
should do it, and you didn't do that right, and oh my God, and so you think about yourself all the time, but you're never actually in your own business. And then we wonder,
No.
why is my life in shambles? Well, it's in shambles because you're never home. You're always somewhere
I
else.
mhm. And
I think,
not, I think it's so like interesting, because we never actually like talk to ourselves. This is something that like we judge and we critique and
yeah,
whatever. But we are so out of tune with like who we
yes,
are. And I read something once where it was like, triggers only exist where you haven't healed wounds. So like if something, and I know like as a young like millennial or whatnot, we're all triggered. That's like something, and I'm not here to disregard that at all. But I think it's interesting because we have become this way where it's like, that's triggering, that gives me anxiety, that blah, blah. And coming from someone who has anxiety, I get that. And I think they're little messages of, and that's where you haven't dealt with something. Like nothing in life
exactly.
should really be triggering to you. If someone says to me like, you look fat today, I'd be like, okay. Like And that's how you should have such a good relationship and such a self-respect
Yeah.
that nothing triggers you, nothing upsets you, because you know your truth. But we spend no time like just alone and with ourselves, and not distracted or not trying to put on a show for someone else. And we just totally lose sight of who we even are sometimes.
Oh my goodness, yes. And then we invest all this time and this energy in creating this persona that's basically bait for
Yeah.
approval. That's what it is. And when we don't get approval, we're mad at the people who didn't take the bait. Well, who made the bait? We
Mm-hmm.
did. Why are you looking to
Yeah.
them you're the one that made
Or
this?
yeah, or I think that's a little bit when we get really sad, because then if people accept our bait, that's not us. And we have to
Exactly.
then like live in that mold. That's the second part of like the speech I was giving, was I wanted people to think that I was this whatever person, this like perfect mold, all of these things. And then people did. They bought my bait, but I didn't buy my bait. And so no wonder I was unhappy, and no wonder I was super anxious all the time. Because you constantly are acting and you constantly have to keep up the persona, and how exhausting, to be
It
trying
really
to
is.
prove yourself every single day to everyone else and
Right?
not just be so satisfied with who you are. Yeah.
And the sad thing about it is we live in societies that are supposedly more and more tolerant, but we're less and less seen. Like, as each
Mhm.
generation goes by, it feels like less of our authenticity bleeds through into our daily life, even while we're saying that, oh, our society is so tolerant, which you would think would breed authenticity, being tolerant of
Mhm.
whatever arises. But in truth, we really aren't. We're tolerant of what we want to see.
Yep. We like safety. We like safety, and we like comfort, and we like guarantee, I think, as a society. And so I think
Yeah.
we do it more to ourselves, is, you know, I know that this is accepted, and I know the results I'm going to get. I can use like for a young, like I just graduated college. And so I know so many people who are in a 9 to 5 that they
Oh,
totally
dude,
hate, but
yes.
it's safer to stay there because you know the outcome realistically. You work hard, you work there for 10 years, you grow the ladder, it's all safe. But what if there's a saying that's like, discomfort means that you're 3 feet from gold. So like, what if you leave your job and you're
Wow.
so uncomfortable and you're so vulnerable, but then you go and start your business, and we are just so scared of being uncomfortable, and we're so scared of being vulnerable, when once again the only person that can truly hurt us is ourselves,
Yes.
by holding us back and not showing our authentic light, and just completely morphing into what we think we have to be and the person that we have to be. And eventually we're all doing that, and I think that that's why then society gets less tolerant, is because we are all actually kind of the same, or we're all trying to be the same, and
Yeah.
we're all trying to fit in the same mold. And so then when someone isn't even really crazy out there, it's just being themselves, it's like a completely different world. And I think the second part with that is, I've started, and I tell my clients this, is you're not allowed to apologize in your speech. And so like, we
Wow.
do this thing, and I used to do this a lot, is I would say things like, oh, I love horoscopes. Oh, like I know that that's super hippy dippy. Like, sorry that, and you would apologize for almost like saying things or speaking about things that you liked, like, or if you put on a dress, and you were like, oh, I look good. Oh, like, sorry, that was a little, you would apologize
Yeah.
for hyping yourself up. And we do it all the time. I have so many conversations with people where, I'll say like, what are you interested in? And they'll say, oh, I'm really into Dungeons and Dragons. Like, it's super fun. Sorry, this is kind of nerdy. And I always stop them, like, because that's right there is society trying to hush
Yeah.
you. It's you reiterating that, like, that's not exactly the norm, and that's not what you're supposed to share. And as soon as you speak it, you instantly judge it, and you're like, oh shoot, like, no, ha ha ha, just kidding, whatever. And that's a huge like self-confidence thing. It's just speaking your truth and being your truth, and not caring if someone is here for it or not, because you are. And that is like the most calming, I think, authentic place you can be in your life.
Oh, wow. I have absolutely adored this conversation. Emily, thank you so much for coming on
Too.
with me. To all of our viewers who joined
Yeah.
us, thank you so much for being here with us today. And if you come by and you catch this after we're no longer live, drop us a hashtag replay. Let us know that you were here. Let us connect with you. And if you liked what you heard, and come on, guys, how could you not have liked what you just heard? All of Emily's contact information is in this live, her website, her Facebook page, her Instagram account. And especially if you were a young woman, I wish to God that I had learned some of the things that I learned in my late 30s and my early 40s in my 20s, because it would have absolutely revolutionized the way that I looked at myself and the way that I lived my life. So if you are a young woman or not a young woman who is really struggling with who am I, and coming back to center and understanding that we're not really reacting to what we experience or reacting to our thoughts about what we experience, please, I'm begging you, get a hold of this woman and figure out how to get the reins back on your mindset and how to make that life that you really want to lead. So again, Emily, my love, thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you. Yeah,
I
it was
appreciate it.
amazing.
Yes, it was. And guys, I will see you back here tomorrow. Not tomorrow, on Monday, same place, same time. And as always, you know I love you. We'll see you later.
Love it.
Bye, guys.